I used to believe love could survive anything. That was before I found the lipstick stain on my husband's white collar. The color was a deep crimson, nothing I owned. It stared back at me like proof of my stupidity. For 10 years, I'd built a life with Ryan in our quiet suburb outside Austin, Texas. We had the house, the SUV, the golden retriever. To anyone looking in, we were perfect. Inside, I'd been ignoring small cracks, the late nights, the urgent work trips, the way his eyes slid past me at dinner. That night, I waited until he fell asleep and checked his phone. The messages were right there, each one slicing through me like glass. Can't wait to see you again, babe. Last night was amazing. I didn't cry, I just stared at the screen until the words blurred. Something in me turned cold. Morning came and I made his coffee like always. He kissed my cheek before heading out, smelling of her perfume. I smiled back. He didn't notice my hands shaking. That's when I decided I wouldn't confront him yet. Revenge tastes best when it's planned, not screamed. I started watching, listening. I learned where he met her, a woman named Crystal, a realtor from Dallas. They'd been seeing each other for nearly a year. I gathered proof, texts, hotel receipts, photos. Every file went neatly into a folder on my laptop labeled Taxes 2024. I kept my face calm, my voice soft, my heart hidden. The neighbors still waved at us, admiring how devoted we looked. They had no idea I was counting down the days until everything he built with my trust would turn before I made my first move. I needed to know everything, what she looked like, how she spoke, what kind of woman thought she could take another woman's husband and sleep peacefully at night. So, I created a new Instagram account, a simple profile, no photo, just a quote about Texas sunsets. Then I followed Crystal. Her page was public, of course. She wanted to be seen. Every post screamed vanity, pictures in designer dresses, champagne flutes, new listings with captions like "Another dream home sold." I scrolled until I found them, selfies of her and Ryan at a wine tasting event. His arm around her waist, his eyes soft, the same eyes that once looked at me that way. I didn't break down. Instead, I studied her. The way she always tagged locations, the restaurants she loved, her predictable patterns. I knew exactly where she'd be on Friday night, the Velvet Room downtown. That evening, I put on a black dress, tied my hair back, and walked in like I belonged there. I spotted them easily, Ryan's hand resting on her thigh, his laugh low and intimate. I walked past their table, pretending not to notice, though my pulse was a drumbeat in my ears. I didn't look back, but I knew he saw me. The next morning, he asked if I'd gone out last night. I smiled. No, why? He hesitated, then dropped it. Guilt was already starting to eat him alive. Perfect. That night, I printed everything, photos, receipts, messages, and sealed them in a brown envelope. Then I mailed it to his boss. Not anonymously. I wrote, "You should know who's representing your company during business trips." Ryan worked in corporate real estate, the same firm that prized reputation above all. I knew exactly how much they hated scandal. The fallout came 3 days later. He came home pale and silent, his job temporarily suspended. I played the supportive wife, hugging him while hiding the satisfaction curling through me. "It'll be okay," I whispered, even as I knew Ryan avoided his phone. He deleted Crystal's number, but I knew it was only out of fear, not regret. Men like him always crawl back to their comfort zone when the fire gets too close. I acted the perfect wife. Cooked his favorite meals, ironed his shirts, asked about his day with a soft smile. Inside, I was taking notes, his new patterns, his moods, his excuses. When he left for a walk, I checked his car's GPS history. When he showered, I went through his wallet. Every lie became a weapon I'd eventually use. 3 weeks later, I found the final proof. A hotel receipt in his coat pocket, dated 2 nights ago. The same night he'd told me he was visiting his mother. The same night she called me asking if he was home safe. That was the night I stopped pretending. I rented a storage unit and began moving my things quietly, a few boxes each day while he was at the gym. Documents, jewelry, clothes, and my grandmother's ring. I wasn't going to be the wife who got left with nothing but betrayal. When I was ready, I called Crystal. My voice was calm, almost friendly. "Hi, this is Emily, Ryan's wife." The silence on her end stretched long enough for me to hear her breath hitch. "I think we should meet," I said. "Woman to woman." She agreed, probably out of curiosity. We met at a cafe near the courthouse. She looked nervous, fidgety, not the confident woman from Instagram. I handed her a folder, copies of every message and photo she'd ever sent him. Her face turned ghost white. "Don't worry," I said. "I'm not here to fight. I just wanted you to know who you're really dealing with." I left her there, staring at the evidence of her own mistake. That night, Ryan came home early, looking haunted. Crystal had told him everything. "Why would you do this?" he demanded. "Because," I said, meeting his eyes. I awoke early and sat at the kitchen table with my coffee, watching Ryan stumble around, trying to figure out how his world had started to collapse. He looked at me like I'd suddenly become a stranger in our own house. Good. Let him feel that. I didn't confront him immediately. Instead, I started contacting our lawyer, carefully preparing for divorce. He hadn't noticed yet that I'd been moving my finances into my name only. I had a hidden account, hidden investments, and hidden plans. He assumed he still had control, but control was a concept I'd long since taken back. Ryan's arrogance had been his undoing. Every time he tried to charm his way out, I calmly deflected, asked precise questions, and let him explain himself until he realized he had no explanation that would save him. He started arguing less and just stared at me, eyes wide, like he was seeing the Emily he married fade away. One afternoon, I received a call from a private investigator I'd hired weeks ago. Claire had tracked every one of Ryan's secret expenses and hidden accounts. The evidence was overwhelming, far beyond what I could have imagined. He had underestimated me completely. By the evening, I had an envelope ready. It was addressed to our accountant, our lawyer, and our top investors. Inside were copies of all the evidence, transfers, hotel receipts, and emails proving his lies and embezzlement. My revenge wouldn't be impulsive or petty. It would be professional, elegant, and unstoppable. When Ryan came home, he found me sitting on the couch, laptop open, looking calm. He tried his usual charm, but it didn't work. I looked up at him, voice steady, "Check your email." He froze. Then he realized. The color drained from his face as he saw the proof laid bare. His empire, built on lies and deceit, was crumbling in real time. The man who had once controlled my life now had no idea how to control anything at all. He sank onto the couch, muttering, you can't do this." "I already have," I said softly. Was brutal. I watched via video link as the investors confronted Ryan, demanding explanations for missing funds and unapproved expenditures. He tried to defend himself, but the emails, messages, and receipts I'd compiled left him cornered and floundering. Meanwhile, I stayed in my apartment, watching the chaos unfold without stepping into the room. There was a strange satisfaction in knowing that his arrogance had led him to this moment. Every lie he told, every secret he thought was safe, was now being exposed in the most public way possible. By the end of the week, Ryan had no clients left, no business trips, no one trusting him to manage anything. He came home, defeated, and begged me for answers. "Emily, why are you doing this?" I looked at him calmly. "Because I can. Because I refuse to be powerless any longer. Because you taught me how to fight by showing me what betrayal feels like." He didn't speak after that. His silence was louder than any apology. For the first time in years, he was quiet and small. I realized then that revenge wasn't about hurting someone blindly. It was about reclaiming yourself, showing the other person exactly what their actions cost them, and standing tall while they collapse. He sulked in every room, like a ghost haunting the ruins of his own life. His calls went unanswered, his texts ignored. Even Crystal had cut contact. His world had shrunk to the size of our living room, and I was finally free from the fear that had once gripped me every time he came home. I spent my mornings sorting documents, my afternoons walking in the park, my evenings reading novels that had collected dust for years. Peace was foreign, but intoxicating. I realized revenge wasn't just about punishment, it was about reclaiming joy that had been stolen by someone else's lies. Then came the legal papers. Divorce filings, custody disclaimers for our dog, and property settlements. I watched Ryan read them, and the color drained from his face again. He didn't yell. He didn't beg. He just looked small and broken. And for the first time, I didn't feel guilty. "Emily," he said quietly. I don't know how to fix this." "You can't," I said softly. "Not anymore. You created this, and now you'll live with it." I moved forward with the divorce quietly, professionally. I didn't need a courtroom showdown. I had every piece of evidence, every witness, every email and receipt that proved his betrayal. The law was on my side. I started receiving messages from people who had been affected by Ryan's lies, former clients, investors, even employees. They wanted to thank me for exposing the truth. I didn't seek recognition, but the validation felt good. My revenge had not only freed me, but it had also protected others from his deceit. I found myself stronger than I'd ever imagined. For years, I had been the accommodating, quiet woman. Now, I was decisive, fearless, and in control of my own life. Each decision I made reminded me that power isn't taken, it's reclaimed. Ryan tried to contact me several times, apologies spilling from his texts. I ignored them all. Silence was my weapon now. Each unread message, each unanswered call was a reminder that he no longer held sway over my emotions, my days, or my nights. For the first time, I slept without worry, without fear, without wondering if my life would be dismantled again by someone else's lies. The freedom was exhilarating. Then came the final confrontation. He showed up at my apartment one evening, unannounced, desperate. His eyes were hollow, his suit wrinkled, his hands trembling. He had nothing left but regret and empty apologies. I want a chance to explain," he said. I looked at him, truly looked, and saw the man who had betrayed everything we built. But I also saw something else, nothing could ever undo the choices he had made. "Ryan," I said calmly, "I'm not the same woman you married. I am free now." "You made sure of that?" He faltered, swallowed hard, then nodded. For the first time, he understood that power, once lost, could not easily be regained. I closed the door gently, and he walked away. I didn't lock it. I didn't need to. He wouldn't come back. I found new routines, new friends, new joys. The apartment became a sanctuary. I traveled, I laughed, I lived for myself. I started a small business of my own, something creative and fulfilling. Every so often, I thought of Ryan. Not with anger, not with longing, but with quiet satisfaction. He had learned what it felt like to be powerless, to be exposed, to be ignored. And I had learned that survival is sometimes the sweetest revenge. I finally understood that revenge isn't always about destruction, it's about reclaiming your own life and refusing to be diminished by anyone. One evening, I stood on the balcony of my apartment, watching the city lights flicker below. I took a deep breath, feeling the cool wind on my face. The past had tried to define me, to trap me, but I had rewritten my story. I had survived betrayal, deception, and heartbreak. I had turned silence into strategy, pain into power, and lies into lessons. The woman I once was, timid, cautious, and accommodating, was gone. In her place stood someone stronger, wiser, and unafraid to claim the life she deserved. And as I watched the sun set over the skyline, I realized that freedom, peace, and self-respect were the ultimate revenge. Not anger, not destruction, but simply living well and without compromise. The past was behind me, and the future was mine. Fully, completely, and fiercely mine.